Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. It's Nature Folklore Sessions. It's 30th of October, 2022. And there should be a start. Well, thank you everyone for joining me for our weekly time of exploring nature-centered folklore, connecting this within your favorite sanctuary space and exploring your inspired visions from your sanctuary through your poetry, writing, arts, crafts, performance, and even problem solving. Now, this is the sixth of what will be the 7 folklore editions leading up to Sawan. And next week, it's going to be the last one while I take a break for about 15 months, but we'll still have the Holy Well revivals on Wednesday. But this one here, it's titled What is Sacred Fire? And I'm going to get the whole new tech lined up and see how clever this is. So this is a sacred fire. Here we go. There's some sacred fire there for you. Absolutely wonderful. And we also have several special guests as well on the show, and I'm going to announce them shortly. And these Nature Folklore sessions, as usual, the videos, the tree and water sanctuary support, they're all brought to you by the support of our very kind subscribers, because without them, I wouldn't be able to fund putting on the show to share with you today. So thank you for your help and your subscriptions. And as usual, as a reminder, that's the main link. That's the Patreon link there. You can be a subscriber. But some people are not too happy about Patreon using PayPal. So if you're not a PayPal fan, I'm also on Buy Me a Coffee. So I'll roll that banner. There you go. You just use a card with that one. Very simple. So any help with a pound, euro, dollar a month or more, it goes a long way towards keeping the show afloat, because you all collectively help out. And many thanks for all the help. Now, a reminder that after next Sunday, the 6th of November, the next edition of Nature Folklore, I am changing direction because I want to finish writing the support books to this series of Nature Folklore books, because now that I'm broadcasting the Holy Welsh Revival on Wednesday, I'm not getting any time to do the books. I'd love to get the books out because people have been asking for them. And so, next week, the final one for about 15 months will be What is the Veil? And we got some guests lined up for that one as well, which is fantastic. So what I'll be doing is each week preparing a broadcast, to getting down to editing a chapter or two each week, because I've got a timetable. There's 4 books coming out next year, so there's quite a tall order, but a lot of it is written already. So the Imbolc and Spring Flowing, that will come out on the 30th of January next year. And then we got the Bildner and Summer Sowing. That'll come out on 24th of April next year. And Lunacer and Autumn Harvest, that's on 31st of July, is the release date for that one. And then the final one, Sawan and Winter Dreaming, on Monday, 30th of October, so a year from now. But I'll start pre-order offers from mid-November, and I'll have a Patreon level as well to qualify for your own free copies when they're released. So, and I'll try and get some short videos done as a kind of teasers to show you how I'm getting on with the publication, with the project. But the Holy Welsh Revival broadcasts, they're shorter than this, but they'll happen every Wednesday. I love doing them. And hopefully in 2024, Nature Folklore will come back, but then it'll be more of a chat and entertainment show. With all the informational books available, and I'll have other videos available. You can go and watch those in your own time. So after all that blether, let's see what amazing folks are already with us. I see you really coming in quite fast. Cliff Cars here. I'm glad you're going to you're on, because you're going to be the first guest, Cliff, believe it or not. How's that? And we got Andrea Wood. Yes, thank you for that photo you sent this morning. That'll come up near the end of the show. Very useful. Thanks very much, Andrea Rose. And we got Ryan here, Ryan Hollitz from DeLand, Florida. Oh, wonderful, DeLand near the Blue Springs. And the manatees, I hope they're doing very well. They should be still in there. Are they in there? Yeah, the manatees should be rolled up there. Beautiful place. And Jane's on. Hi, looking forward to a bit more of Jane later on. Fabulous. Who else? There's quite a few people here. Oh, Kenneth Michael. Let's see. Through YouTube. Sound practitioner in Pennsylvania. Good to be here. I'm thrilled that you're here as well. And Penny Stevenson is here from Buckhurst Hill this week to Epping Forest Way. And believe it or not, very close by is actually Charlie Ray, who says great to be here. So fantastic. There's a big show. Oh, Kate's here as well. She's arrived, Iowa. Brilliant. And through YouTube, Lama's here as well. Lama Davis saying hello to everyone. Wonderful. And also a guest from next week is Cattle's here. He'll have his lovely poetry next week. So brilliant. We really got a lovely early bird crowd in. So I'm absolutely thrilled about that. And I'll say hello to everybody else as they're coming in. So let's get on with the show as best that I can with playing with these new toys. Hang on, I think I better wipe the comments off so we can get full visual as best that I can. So here we go. Lots of people watching. Yeah, I'll get rid of that banner as well. I think you probably got the address of that. I don't have to try and bully you into it. So right, here we go. Fabulous. Anyway, to introduce this edition, a lot of what I will be saying, it may seem obvious if you're very familiar with the Samhain traditions. Of course, you'll be familiar with the Halloween stuff that goes on and the connections. So a lot of what I'll say might seem obvious and known to a lot of you. But I'll use this actually as a lead-in into the variety. We really got a variety show on today on Nature Folklore. It's probably going to end up extending because we got a fabulous set of guests. But Halloween now is tomorrow, of course. As you probably know, it's a holiday celebrated each year on October the 31st of October, depending which side of the Atlantic you're on. And on Halloween this year, it will, as I say, occurs tomorrow. And that's, oh no, sorry, that's, yes, tomorrow is Monday. I'm losing my days because it was a clock change today. So that's losing my stuff here. Right. Some of the activities and traditions of All Hallows Eve, which is Halloween, of course, is a reinterpretation of what we know from fragments of the ancient festival of Samhain that's been around for about thousands of years, but it's not always been called Samhain. Right. And I've got, sorry, I'm hesitating because one of the computers decided to go quiet. Anyway, it was the dear old Pope Gregory III, there he is, of late 8th century. And he, after pretty much all of Europe, especially Ireland, they'd really had at least 100 years of epidemic of plague, and the church had been disrupted, but it was starting to come together in the 7th century, and then order and the whole sense of Christian order started coming in. And Pope Gregory III is very much a leader in this, and he reformed how the church was to look like and what it was going to be celebrated like, and particularly Samhain. That's Talaka, by the way. Hill Award, some people know, just like the sunset picture. But Samhain that we say today is from original words, actually translates out as the summer's end or the harvest end. And an old word, actually one of the old words, is Safun. And while Ireland is saying something like Samhain, there's many Scots who are actually sticking to that old word, Safun, and what they say is Savun. especially in the Hebrides. Now, the Pope Gregory ruled that instead, that's it, there's Pope Gregory with a bunch of people there, and he ruled that instead of this time being reverence for harvest and gratitude and family ancestors, there should be a time of reverence to the miracle working saints, a higher order than the mere peasant pagan ancestors. And at the time, Pope Gregory III, it was adopted to the Julian calendar of the day, because the Gregorian calendar was put up by a later Pope Gregory, who was he, 13th, I think, Pope Gregory the 13th. And he actually put up what's known as the Gregorian calendar, which took over the world just before All Saints' Day in 1582. And his calendar actually moved All Saints' Day forward by 4 days, because the Julian calendar didn't take in the leap year, so that's why it got messed up. But the Gregorian calendar, compared to the old Babylonian, Macedonian calendar, is still way off the sidereal time. Anyway, All Saints' Day seems to have come from a Saxon phrase that sort of translates, and the Saxon was quite close to this, is All Hallows Mess. And hallow being a word for saint. Do we have a saint? No, that's not a saint there. I'm not sure what I've got booked up there. Anyway, I'll do that. Being a word for a saint, as it included hal, meaning holy, purification, and even baptism. And that's why that picture's there. It's the best thing I could get for a baptism image there. Anyway, mess itself, that's being mass, of course, being a blessing, meeting, or the Protestant churches, etc. It's a service. And the day before being All Hallows, it was known as All Hallows Messine, with the een, and it's still used in parts of Scotland, een meaning eve. So somehow through accents and people speaking quickly, Hallows Messine became Halloween. And Pope Gregory III, he was the one trying to change it, bring the order and rules of the church in. And he had a compromise that the peasant pagans could still gather and celebrate the Samhain traditions, but this must change from the ancient sidereal time, cross-quarter time, which this year falls on, well, the day of it that's closest is the 7th of November. And a lot of people, they didn't have the wise person to calculate it out for them. So they chose the new moon time, the nearest to that time. Different celebrations, different dates, different times used in different localities, because they didn't have internet, they didn't have cars, so it was very much communities were small, and the communication, of course, was not that great. So that's why accents and traditions are very different. As you just move 5-10 miles, it gets very different. So everything sort of moved to this new 31st of October day. What also changed with that movement of the day was the focus of the celebration. And I'm going to move on to Sacred Fires this time, because I want to get our first guest on because it's going to be a song here from Cliff Carr, and I hope that's a Cliff Carr picture. There he is. There's Cliff Carr there, and he's in the audience watching. And as usual, I always ask, who does Cliff Carr sound like today? And this time, you'll understand, I think, when you watch it, if you're familiar, I suggest that this song coming up is a hybrid of the Buzzcocks and the Manic Street Preachers. I hope that suits Cliff anyway. So anyway, I believe I've got it lined up here. I've got Cliff Carr here. He's got a Swan song. Yeah, I've got Cliff's here. So here we go. We got Cliff Carr with his Swan. So roll it away, Cliff.
Respect those that leave us.
You're going. Ah, so well done. I hope you enjoyed that clip. As you see, that was actually a clip taken of Cape Burrows at the Courtyard Market yesterday, and I only got permission for that this morning, so it got thrown in. I hope that worked well for you. Yeah, great fun and great fun thing to get us going. Thank you, Cliff, for allowing that. Let's see who we got here. Cliff Carr, he's made a comment. Thank you. Let's see, he said something and he's gone. Let's catch it again. I'm pleased you got the song and lyrics. Okay. And there's an Ashley says incredible. Thank you very much. And Maria Generous here as go. Yes, definitely. Trying to go anyway. A lot of people from YouTube today, which is fabulous. Vancouver Island, Sarah Defoe, brilliant. And Charlene, who's also here, is also Vancouver. No, she's not Vancouver Island. She's south of that. Ah, brilliant. So that's it. Have I got everybody for this time? Brilliant. That was great fun, of course, with Cliff Carr there. It's I always. Oh, someone else is in, and Penny's loves that Cliff. Super. It really was. So am I clear? I'm trying to, there we go, the banners. I've got a clear picture again. Marvelous. Now, we also have more guests. As I say, Cliff was the first of several. Let's see if I can get the pictures up. We've got Chandler Nichols is the next one. Let's see if I got her here. There we go. No, she's not here. Yeah, should be here, but there we go. I'll try and get her. There we go. There's Chandler there. And she's next guest that's going to be on. And we got Jane Gilgan. There we go. There's Jane. And we've got Kate Cloudsparks. Kate Cloudsparks. We got her as well. And then, sorry, at my end, the computer's going wonky. Anyway, Laura Montserrat, actually, she's not actually on. She couldn't quite make it. So she sent a little video clip as a teaser. So we'll have that a bit later on. We got Jerry Donlan, which I hope will be coming on live. He's going to be with a couple of poems as well. And that's him there. And who's that? Oh, Grace Wells. Grace Wells has got a beautiful Swan video out, and so we'll feature that towards the end. So that's looking forward to all of that. So, introduction to fires. Let's get on with the fire stuff now. Now, considering that Sawan being the time of summer, it's the end of summer farming and harvest. It's all at an end, and including with the celebration, it's gratitude and thanks to the She and the ancestors. That's the tradition of it before the church came along, and since the church came along. But when it moved to the 31st of October, the church was probably already teaching about the devil and Satan. And so somehow the ancestor spirits seem to take on a bit of a more zombie image like that. And traditions such as fear of ghosts and fear of fairies and bad omens, they crept in as well. Now, one thing in common with Sawan and in some areas in Ireland and Scotland, especially what we call Halloween, is the tradition of fires. And England, this is England on the 5th of November, and that's a bonfire. They're closer to the old Sawan Day with their 5th of November. And I think that's the way it spread on. There was this whole excuse, it's a whole Guy Fawkes thing. But I think it was just a Sawan transfer because the Protestant church was frowning on the idea of Sawan as well, probably much more than the Catholics. But through UK countries, UK countries, I know that Scotland has adopted to October the 31st for a long time, certainly for the past 30 years or so, but I think England and Wales has jumped on, and the old November the 5th is perhaps fading a bit. Anyway, it's the Day of the Dead in several countries on the 2nd of November, and that was the other picture representation there, and that's landed on the Gregorian date of the 2nd of November, and that's to follow an All Hallows Eve and All Saints Day. That's my picture of an All Saints Day there. And for most people, the day of 31st of October is the day of celebration. But I put this chart up here where it really shows the real cross-quarter point, the exact midpoint between the fall equinox, autumn equinox, and the winter solstice. The exact point in between that two is the cross quarter. And through the people of wisdom in the past, as I say, the Macedonians, the Babylonians, they would have regarded that as being a very special moment that we would relate to as being so on. But if that's not around, they use the moon, of course. But even more modern to that is it's not always celebrating on 31st of October anymore. Fortunately, we've got a holiday here in Ireland, so the celebrations on Monday will be quite big. But even so, a lot of people now are doing their celebrations on the Saturday or the Sunday that's closest to the 31st of October. So it's kind of whittled down, diluted even further. But those days now, as I say, they're preferred to a day, otherwise it was the nearest new moon to the cross quarter point. The people, that's something people could see. They didn't need someone to calculate it out. And so this time being marked at the end of the summer, whichever way it's done, it used to be recognized very much as being the end of the summer with the final harvest being in. It's barely regarded anymore because not many people are farmers anymore. And we've got quite conditioned to going to shops and supermarkets, and we can buy foods all year round that's imported. We got so conditioned to that. So an actual recognition at the end of the harvest is not with us anymore. So it should be. I think there should be some reflection on that. I think if you've got a small garden, you can do especially if you're not relying on your polytunnels and doing outdoor gardening, I think you get a whole sense of what this time is about again. So instead the evening of the 31st of October, which is regarded as the start of our transition into the cold, dark winter. There we go. There's a cold, dark winter there. And also into a time of the year cycle, it's a year cycle. It's not beginning or end. And this is the time between now, I suppose, and Imbolc that we have the most association with human death. And I'll be talking about the veil after our next wonderful guest that we got on. And it's time to bring on my headphones, and we'll have Chandler Nichols, who's got a real treat for us. She's actually live. So let's get himself geared up. Chandler's waiting patiently in the background there, which is fabulous. We had a bit of a sound check earlier, which is nice. So I know this is going to sound great. Hello again, Chandler. And hello, you're all right, great. Let's see if I've got if the buttons are working. There we go. So, yes, I know you got a grand treat. You've been spending the whole summer on adventures just about all over the USA, rock climbing, and I haven't got a picture of your dog. Is your dog handy?
She's doing brilliant. She's out of the room, so she won't squeak her toys in the middle of the poem reading.
Brilliant. I was going to put a picture of you and the dog up, and they somehow slipped the pathway. So we will another time that you're on. Anyway, if you'd like to introduce what you got to us, that'd be absolutely fabulous if you can.
Well,
now let's get you on full. Let's get you. Oops, I'm throwing you off here. Trying to get there. You go.
All right. Well, thank you for having me on, John, and Samhain blessings to you and to all of our viewers today. And I have my little snake EO here with me since we've been talking quite a bit about.
Oh, wonderful!
Before, so he just wanted to say hello to everybody. And so today I'm actually going to sing a poem song that I've spoken on here before, but this is the first time I'll actually be singing it. And I've also been working on a little tune to go with it on my hammered dulcimer, which I hope you all can see here. So the tune and the song poem is called Dream of the Autumn Equinox, and building up to Samhain and all of the beauty that we see around and the connection to the ancestors as the veil is thinning. So I hope you enjoy. So now onto the poem song. Strum the harp for magic sleep, away to the land of fairy dream. Carry gently upon my word the sweetest music thou hast ever heard. And before thine eyes a woodland dream of sparkling wells and oaks serene, where through the wild one starts to dance, stern and loved be his countenance. The harpstrings woven of ivy vine, the gentle curve of fruits intertwined, the drum doth sound from the heart of deer, the low drone of the owl near. The muted beauty of his plumes, the sweet song of the thrush resumes, entwined with chiming of the wren, and the hollow hums of an autumn wind. And though the trees are colors warm, the red fruits of the rowan swarm, amidst the budding apple trees, with crimson fruits and flowers pink. And here the holly takes his crown of mistletoe from the oaken bough, and before him bow the birch and yew, the ash and alder and the hawthorn too. Behold the sights, behold the sounds of music weaving all around, in a painting of colors gay, as through the wildwood gold you stray. Crunch of apples sweet and cool, the rich wisdom from the spring you pool, and hazel and dine upon its fruit, sitting by that earthen womb. Otherworldly the fay land seems, as the grass pulls you gently down to sleep, cradled in moss between the roots, heed to the lulling of the yew. With spirit at peace and heart fulfilled, arise and walk to the golden hill, wherein the sun doth set at eve, casting copper to the rusted leaves. And bid farewell to tear and the knock, to the colors and to the song, to the trees that feed thy soul, and to the wells that made thy heart whole. And gently tread through the ring of stone, and mind my words to return you home. And should thou search for peace again, return to that land and hearken. Strum the harp for magic sleep, away to the land of fairy dream. Carry gently upon my word sweetest music thou hast ever heard.
Oh wow, that certainly is gorgeous. I want to try something on my. Oops, that doesn't quite work that way. Let's try and get myself back on this. Get you back. Oh goodness, there we go. How do I get the two of us? There we go. That should work. Brilliant. Yeah, that was gorgeous, and and live too. And you got the reception. It does throw you on the spot, but the Dulcimer sounded beautiful in your voice. I mean, that's absolutely stunning. So I look forward to the next beautiful tones from you. Thank you so much for that, Chandler. That was really precious. That was, and Cliff Carr loved it. He says that was a beautiful tune there. Murray Generous, lovely. Thank you. Lovely afternoon. Thank you, Chandler, for offering this to us. Super. Charlene here somewhere. Can't get a comment up. There we go. So beautiful there. And Caleb, another one. Caleb's on board. Very nice, Chandler, supporting you from Albuquerque. Is that someone you know from your Albuquerque adventures? Aha, brilliant. That's wonderful. Very good. Little Wing as well, I think, as someone amazing. The comments are coming in loud and clear. Andrea Thank you, Chandler. Phenomenal. So we'll. That's super. So look forward to you again. So thank you for a few moments of that. That was stunning. We'll have you back, maybe on a Wells on a Wednesday as well. Thanks, Chandler Nichols, everyone. Super duper. Penny there, so lovely. So blessings, and Cattle certainly enjoyed that. Beautiful. And there were a few other comments that escaped me here. That's it. Penny Stevenson, Cliff Carr. If only there were some hard frost now to signal the season's changed. Well, it's supposed to cool down quite a bit next week, so maybe your wish will come in. And Little Wing here was saying earlier, greeting. Oh yeah, we said that when you arrived from watching us from Manchester. Fabulous. Is Kenneth Michael here saying something? Love the dulcimer and lovely chanting. Super duper. Thank you very much for the kind comments. Thank you so much for Chandler for that. And on with the show, as we might say, because I'm going to be talking about crossing the veil. And for thousands of years, humans, they believe that the day of this time is when the boundary between the worlds, let's get my pictures going here, between the worlds of the living and the dead are thinned, and the living and the dead can embrace. And crossing the veil is a term that's often used during these modern days, really. We call it crossing the veil. And most people recognize the night of this current Gregorian date of the 31st as being that crossing the veil time instead of the actual Sawan. And this is more or less due to convenience, because all you have to do to determine it's 31st of October or October the 31st is just look at a calendar. No calculations needed. You don't have to calculate sidereal time, and you don't have to translate out some almanacs or ephemeris, that type of thing. So when the veil of the living and the dead is thinnest, here, I believe that the ghosts of the dead return to this realm on Earth. Is that it? There we go. There's a nice ghost for you, returning to this realm on Earth. So, what do we create to recognize this veil? Sacred fires. They've been used by cultures for thousands of years. No, that's not the sacred fire. That is been used for thousands of years, and they've been used as a medium for rituals and healing. And perhaps the most potent from sacred fires is the way that when we're around the fire, like those people at the back there, when we're together as a living community, there's an amazing bonding, it seems, when we're all warming up by the fire, especially this time of year with the we all share our community memories and spirits of our ascendants and our ancestors. And fire, like water, it encourages us to pause, contemplate, connect, and really return joy. So the fire, very similarly to being like what I talk about at the Holy Wells, really. So the experiences, the remembrance, the healing and togetherness is of those that are around us, physically around us, our community, and also to us together over the veil, joining in with the unseen and physically touched and warmed by the presence of all that spirit. I will talk about indigenous ritual after our next guest. I'm going to move on to another guest. We've got to roll through because we've got fantastic number of guests today. We've got Jane Gilgan. She's a great supporter of Nature Folklore and is a guest with us from time to time. She's got a lovely story and presentation from us. It's a bit novel and it's quite familiar. You might be familiar with the interpretation. I'm glad Jane sent this. This is wonderful. And it's a bit of fun. I love it. So here we go, Jane Gilgan. This should be it. Jane Sawan.
Listen. Can you hear them? The spirits. It's the night before the new year, the end of summer, and the beginning of the new year. It's a thin place. The barrier between the living and the dead is lifting, and the spirits are out among us. Do you hear them whooshing? See? I have fire, I have light, I have candles, because I'm welcoming the spirits, especially the spirits of the people who died within the last year. Evil spirits disguise themselves as good spirits, and so I don't want the evil spirits to invade me and take me over. So I'm dressed like a tree. See? I have leaves all around me. I'm hoping that the evil spirits won't recognize me as a human being, but I'm a tree. Druids are trees anyway. When I was a little girl, before I knew I was a druid, I learned about them, and I thought, I'm a druid. And then I found that my name, Sinead Macgillaguna means son of the guardians of the underworld. And for the Celts, the underworld is a beautiful place full of music and art and beauty and nature. And that's where all our gods live. And we think it's also where the good people go once they no longer have earthly existence. So Samhain celebrates this. Samhain says, welcome spirits, here's some treats. I have treats laid out. This is an eating pumpkin. This is a turnip. I have lots of other stuff by the other hearth, because I want the spirits to visit me, to give me counsel, to advise me, to teach me how to live a good life, how to send out the good loving energy, and how to hold back and transform negative energy, because the love energy and the negative energy affects all of us. So the Celts teach us that all is energy, and the trees are energy, and all of creation is energy, and we're all connected. And to foster that energy means that we let our good spirit out and transform any negativity that we have within us. Now, when Christianity came to Ireland, they were concerned about the power of the Druids. The Druids were the priests of the Celts, and the Christians didn't want the competition, so they made up a lot of terrible stories about Samhain. On Samhain, supposedly, we Druids sacrificed children. If our father died, that's the time when we eat the father's flesh. And also, to commemorate the death of the father, we commit incest with our mothers and our sisters and our brothers. Now that's all calumny. That's all to make we Druids look bad so people will become Christians. Now how Christian is that? Actually, the real Christianity is pretty close to what we Celts say love is, what we Celts say what the Spirit is, that we are all one, we are all connected, and our job is to create good spirits, to welcome the spirits, and to ask the evil spirits to think about what they're doing and to join us in the feast, in the celebration of life, to help us enter into the darkness with open hearts, knowing that the light never really goes away. So the Celts and the Druids are very relevant for today. And I hope that you can join me in celebrating Samhain as it actually is.
Thank you so much for that, Jane. And dressing up, a lot of effort onto that. That was delightful. Wonderful, very good. Yeah, that's a gift. Thank you very much for joining in here. I sorry for my stuttering. We're trying to get Jerry on board. Jerry Donovan, he says he's having a struggle. I just got to confirm it with him. So sorry about this for it. I just want to try and sort him out. Right, here we go. I think we'll get Jerry on the go now. Okay, where are we? Cliff Carr, lovely insight and energy, Jane. He was saying there. Oh, there's Jerry. He's in the background, so that's great. We got him lined up, and then Kate loved that. Fantastic. Claire's just joined. Definitely watch from the beginning. I think you'll love the opening with Cliff Carr's. Lovely to have you here, Claire. Fantastic, wonderful. And Chandler as well. More compliments coming in. Lamar there is saying that's wonderful. And when we were talking about the frost there's Cliff saying thank you, Penny, from the first frost arriving to me marks the beginning of winter. Well, I don't know about you. We always seem to get our first frost in September, and we did a little bit in October, and then we didn't get anything. And I don't think we're going to get any over this side of the island until the end of November. But anyway, let's see. Lovely to hear someone described. So thank you, Jane, from Penny there. Now I'm going to be talking about Indigenous ritual a bit more. So let's get back on to the origins of this, because during the past 10 years, we seem to hear people refer much who are trying to get back into a lifestyle of more folklore. And the word indigenous seems to be in people's language a lot more than I've heard it before. And let's see, let's get some indigenous people photos up. That'll make it easier, won't it? Let's get to this one here. No, there we go. Let's try this out. But indigenous people of indigenous community, this is the sort of thing that I'm hearing a lot in conversation. And the idea is trying to learn and live with indigenous spirituality, which is a bit different to what we've been familiar, I suppose, with the Halloween stuff. Now, the main drive of that spirituality, to me, it's like an unbreakable umbilical connection and communication with memories and guidance from our ancestors. To Indigenous people and Indigenous respecting people, sacredness is not a mystical drama of ceremony and ritual, but it's about attention to what we need, what we use, and our management and gratitude of this. And if you've been hearing the interview I was having with Mankorn Mangan, this is one of the subjects that we was talking about. Is something he very much believes in as well. I think I've got a picture relating to that one. The attendance of the fire is definitely relating to sacredness of what we use. Now, every reaped harvest is sacred. Just by getting the harvest is sacred, because our combination of guidance that we get from the spirits, from our ancestors, from our inspirations, plus our application and hard work. And as I was saying earlier, very few of us are farmers. We go shopping at the supermarkets and so forth. So the appreciation and gratitude is not potent. You only sort of recognize this a bit if you're actually working your own garden or small holding or on a farm where you're not relying on polytunnels. Anyway, a fire at the end of the harvest which is also a time of trading the surplus, because during the farming year, you need more seeds, you need more equipment, stuff break down, you're borrowing. And then when the harvest comes in and there's enough for yourselves, there's surplus, the surplus gets traded, you clear your debts. And that's one of the sacred things of this Halloween Swan period. The idea, the old Tara thing, it was make sure all your debts are clear, because if all the debts are cleared, there's not only the debts on this earth, it's all the debts that you got on the other realm. That's the belief of that. So end of the harvest is a time of gathering where individuals actually now feel safe and comfortable to pause. And in a situation like in the back there, I think it's a time when people open, they feel accepted. And I think when we feel accepted, we're comfortable in our surroundings, then we're open. When we had the tree labyrinth, that was an experience of, we invited guests into there, and that seemed to work in that situation. And we did have a fire pit in the middle of that as well. Now, through being open, that is when we suddenly feel, I believe we feel whole, Halloween, holy. We feel grounded, and we feel connected with the earth and everything around the earth, and with our own people on the earth. So those who have moved on, left the earth, before the sacred fire is lit by indigenous people, there's usually a firekeeper. If you've ever done fire walking, we definitely have a firekeeper with that. So, and the firekeeper is usually appointed by a council. That council can be these days amongst a group of friends that are organising the event. You choose between yourselves who's the appropriate firekeeper. No different to indigenous ways, really. And the firekeeper then is responsible for resourcing the materials and creating the fire. Sorry, I haven't got any photos because I ran out of time to find more. So I hope you can imagine all this. So there's the firekeeper being responsible for resourcing the materials and creating the fires, long before the bonfires are actually made up, and long before today's bonfires, when we make them up with broken pallets, don't we? So they actually got, even the materials they gather were quite sacred. Now, an example I can think of is work at Killer Well at the bottom of Ushnik, the hill of Ushnik. And that was not so long ago guided and managed by Sarah Humble of Orbs Well. And this involved clearing away, because the heart-shaped well there was in a mess. Roots were getting into the well, branches were overhanging. It was a little bit of a dangerous place for people to visit, and it was choking the well up. So they cleared away branches and roots from the overhanging trees that were restricting the flow as well. They were restricting the flow of the water as well as the access to the well. So what did they do with the trimmed away parts? They took them up to the Ushnik Hill. I think I've got a picture. I haven't got the Ushnik Hill, but that's part of the work they were doing with the trimming. Some pretty wide stuff going on there. But all that went up to the hill for the building a fire ceremony this year. And this is what's done for these huge community sacred bonfires where people gather. And the Ushnik Hill, there's a lot of people gather. And I think there is a Sawan event, but big one there is the Beldner one. But people themselves attending would actually bring their unwanted debris from their trimmings, from prunings, and also debris from crops that they're not going to use for mulching, composting, but mainly the prunings all come up, and it tends to be the votive, their donation for the community fire. And there's really materials they wouldn't need to use elsewhere. So they bring them up to the community fire, they offer them to the firekeeper to stack up. And once the fire is lit, the council-appointed firekeeper then also keeps a watch over the fire to make sure that it's never unattended. So one thing I find interesting is that with many indigenous tribes, and seemingly I'm talking about most of the tribes in the Americas here, is they actually appoint a man as a firekeeper. But in the ancient Middle East, and I think in Norse countries, for a long time, it seems that in a lot of communities, women were the appointed firekeepers. Now, in what we could now loosely call the Celtic lands, it seems not only men, but I suppose what's famous is Bridget the Kildare. She was a firekeeper. She was, and each of the 19 women were appointed to keep the fire, keep the flame of Bridget alive. So there was one example where the women were firekeepers rather than the men. But let's think a moment about men as firekeepers, because initially you think, oh, that's sort of win over patriarchal ways. But there's another way that this can be interpreted, I think. And it is interpreted quite well through folklore. Because I don't think in the firekeeper case here, it's not a case of male dominance. Because in nature, from spring onwards, right through the summer, the reason we have good harvest is the sun warms the cold land, warms the cold trees. And in Chinese philosophy, you're probably well familiar, yang is the warming male and light, and yin is the cold, feminine. That's the dark and the underground. And of course, the womb is a dark place too. Now, when there's a meeting of the warm and the cold, the light and the dark, there's a copulation that's an alchemy of life. And I believe that's what breeds the she and all these, the key and these things that we believe in as the flow of life. And that through this copulation, the flowing of life, we all end up being born in these temple bodies, whether we're human, animal, bird, reptiles, or a fresh tree coming out of the ground, fish, etc. In any living form, we're containing this life from this copulation from the warm mixing with the cold. Now, to me then, a male firekeeper may well be a substitute for that waned sun, because there's not so much sun in the winter, it's more dark days. And I'm going to talk about food next. Is the next subject. So I hope that's a bit of a thought for you. Anyway, we've got another guest, and I'm delighted that we have a story offering from another wonderful supporter of Nature Folklore. This is the quite wonderful Kate Cloudsparks, who for many years has been a dedicated and wise nurse. And today, she is a wonderful, sustainable farmer of goats and hens in rural Iowa. Lovely sense of humor, wonderful down to earth problem solver, hugely wise woman. So what we've got now, what Kate has kindly shared with us, is very intimate. It seems to be, it's her story of what happened in between her being a nurse and her becoming a wise woman of the land. So let's hear Kate Cloudsparks in a lovely setting in Iowa. So this is Kate's video now. So thank you very much for this, Kate, if you're still with us. I'll get the video going now. Yeah, there it is. It was in a different spot. So this is Kate Cloudsparks, folks. Let's get it going.
So Hallows is coming, and Hallows is my new year, has been my new year for almost 40 years now. And this is why. On October 30th, 1983, I was nursing a broken heart and decided to go for a drive on my motorcycle, even though it was dark and even though it was raining. I was headed out of town and was on a 4-lane road to get me there. On the right side of the road from me was a truck stop and a little driveway they came up to stop at before they went onto the road. The traffic was thick on both directions. The 18-wheeler came up the driveway and he blew the stop sign, which left him blocking 2 lanes, both 2 northbound lanes of the road where I was. All the cars had to slam on their brakes to avoid running into him, and I was trying to steer around some way or another to avoid this. But my motorcycle fishtailed on the wet pavement and I went sliding toward the truck. I was about 100 feet away, and I was clawing the pavement to try to slow myself down, but that wasn't helping. Just as I got close to the truck, I heard a voice, and it was a voice that said, "Choose now." And I knew that I was being given the choice to live or die out of that accident by someone. I screamed, "No," really loud, and the truck ran over my lower leg, but it didn't run over the rest of me. If I'd slid another 3 feet, it would have run over my chest and I wouldn't be here. After the wheel went over my leg, it spit my legs out, and they flew up over my shoulders, and so it broke my back and my leg was crushed. I spent a long, long time in a wheelchair, almost a decade. I had to learn how to walk again. I had to live with pain all the time. I spent time outside my body just listening to music and being in a meditative state in order to get through this. I never have forgotten that Merlin put the choice before me and that I made the choice to be here. All these years later, I'm living on this beautiful farm, and I have goats and I have chickens and I have dogs and cats, and I forage, and I can't imagine what it would have been if I had chosen, yes, I would die out of it, as I would have died. But instead, I've been given these blessings. So I'm not afraid of the veil. I've been through it and bounced back out. And it's real and it's there. And whatever decided to keep me here is something I'm completely grateful for, because I have a great life now. And Hallows is my New Year's, always my most sacred time of the year. I forgot to say that I didn't lose consciousness after I was run over, and so I could hear the sirens and the ambulance and the police getting there. I clearly remember when the police officer was questioning the truck driver. The truck driver gave his first name as Merlin, and this was on Hallows Eve, and that was just too.
Very good. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that, Kate. Thanks for sharing that. Your crossing the veil story. That certainly was definitely very much crossing the veil. And maybe someone can confirm this. Maybe you can, Kate, if you're still with us. But when I worked on Iona during the 70s, I was told that Iona used to be called Iowa, and both the words Iona and Iowa translate out as being dove. Iona, I think, was more sort of Latinized, but Iowa coming in with Saxon students, but I gather the origin might have been Hebrew. So that aside, thank you for passionately sharing your story, Kate. And it was recorded beautifully, lovely setting. I better look. Is there any questions or comments from any of you? There's a lot of you still watching, which I'm grateful for. Thanks very much. And there's Flow of Life. Yin Yang represents a wave too, John. That's Cliff Carr adding to that. Thank you very much. If I missed, there's Heather. Heather, the lovely herbalist Heather, is here somewhere. Iowa is a Native American name. I'd love to know, maybe just coincidence with the translating out. That's why I put the feelers out for that, because I forget, there was a village I went to in Iowa that was connected to something on Iona and Blowed, if I can remember what it is. I wish I could. But yes, when I did ask that question over there, no, it came from a native thing. But then there is a situation when I went to the Hiawatha Festival up in Upper Michigan. The reason the Hiawatha Festival is going is when the people from Finland, speaking the Old Finnish, arrived in the area, they found that they could actually talk to the natives because they were speaking roughly the same language. Yeah, they had not come over from Finland. They come from another direction. So it's intriguing when certainly a lot of words we use have come from the Middle East onwards and traveled far. But it's incredible, I think, if words and interpretations have gone in the other way. Just fascinating what is behind that Iowa word. It could be all kinds of things, and we may be on a different trail altogether. Just a fascination. So thank you, Heather, for making a remark on that one. That's what I'm asking for. Thank you so much for being with us too. And now food at a sacred fire. When people gather, there should always be food. And when the sacred fire is glowing, this is a time when those present can make their offerings. I didn't have time to get good photos of this, but making offerings in the fire in memory and gratitude of our ascendants, our ancestors. And to me, that's a similar practice to adding the rags and cluties that people do over here on the holy wells, on the trees by the wells, the wishing trees. Now, items for this part of the fire ritual, they can be favorite herbs, because once they're put on the fire, it's like just one big smudging stick. You got all these lovely fragrances, and I've got some photo that I think I might want to bring up on this. Let's see if I got something. Let's see. Especially fragrant ones like rosemary. I thought I had a picture, but no, there isn't something here. No, I seem to have lost communication. Yeah, that's it. I lost communication. No, that is it. That's not what I want. That's the one. That's Sunny Indigenous collection, putting stuff on the sacred fire. So putting fragrant herbs like rosemary, thyme, pine needles, a lovely sage, and cedar tends to be a thing that is done. So that's a lovely offering that you can make. Also, tokens of food in memory of our ancestors can be put in the fire, especially in memory of recent ascendants, because we will be aware of their favorite foods, also their favorite aromas. And so add something to that fire as a means of communication and connection to our memories and the spirits of our ascendants and ancestors. Now, the stories of animals being sacrificed at this time, Sawan time, but I think that a lot of that is our imaginations. I think we tend to run away kind of fear-boding imagination. So we tend to think of sacrifice, I think, that we might pick up in horror stories. But if we think this through, animals, especially cattle, they've been brought down from the hills. I know they are in Ireland after the summer grazing. They're up on the hills for the summer grazing so they don't invade the crops growing down below. It gets them out of the way. They're not going to break hedges and fences. Not these days, because there's not so much growing on lower levels like it used to be as far as crops go, because we import so much. But when we couldn't import oats and barley, stuff like that, the cattle were sent up the hills and they were brought down. And some of them, as well as drawing in the oats and barley and all that stuff, some of these cattle that came down would be culled because there isn't going to be the feed for them down below. So they were culled to provide protein-rich food to help sustain the humans through the winter. Now, rather than send off the animals to slaughter, there weren't slaughterhouses in ancient times. And we couldn't just go to ancient people couldn't go along to a supermarket and just buy cuts of meat on the shelves. And so the whole process of the cattle coming down and the butchering and the sharing was all done at the fireside. And of course, to us, people who are used to animals at slaughterhouses and picking up meat in the refrigerator in the supermarkets, we think of the horror comics we've seen. They sacrificed, so you don't think of sending animals off to the slaughterhouse as being sacrificed. So the thing that's different, when animals get herded off into a slaughterhouse, the last thing the slaughterhouse is going to do is have a prayer and a respect for the animals. So the animals at the Sawan time, the killing of the animals was definitely performed with the best possible dignity, gratitude, and love, with lots of thanks for the animals for actually providing for people, especially the milking cows. It was a big thing because this time of year there's a huge trading with butter. If you can't pay your debts off from your grains, you paid it off from the cattle, because as well as the cattle coming down, the women, the daughters who've been looking after the cattle on the hills, they've been milking the cows and making the butter, and that butter comes down, and that's part of the inventory for paying off our debts. So there's all this gratitude to the animal, all this stuff we've forgotten about. And this is what I'm saying, tradition and sacredness is in what we do, not in the words that we say and rhymes and think and the way we dress up and all that stuff. It was real. Sacredness was real, what was providing. That's the message I'm putting over anyway. But of course, there are some grouchy dramatist storytellers that go away even after what I've said. It's all ugly sacrifice. Anyway, at the sacred fire, then the meat, of course, this is feast time. And there's going to be barbecue or whatever of the meat. It's going to be cooked. It's going to be passed around. It's community feasting. So there's going to be indulgence at this time. But then after that indulgence, any other meat is going to be restrained. It's going to be under sustained management. We just let rip at the holiday time. And then through the winter, we just sort of pace it out. So this is really a gratitude celebration for what's going to help us through the winter. So during the culling, cooking and feasting of the animals at this celebration day, of course, you probably, sorry I haven't got photos of this, but people tended to dress up in animal heads and skins. If you go to Ushnik now or Tara, people still dress up in animal heads and skins. So some people just try that, but perhaps they don't really know why they're dressing up in these animal heads. They've probably got some gory story, but it's part, I think, of trying to communicate with the animal as a sort of condolence and as a thank and a gratitude. That's what I feel this dressing up was all about. So that's what I think this dressing up is: additional respects, it's recognition of the animals, and also by dressing up, it's like when we go up to dogs, we start talking to dogs, don't we? And sometimes we imagine we're a dog, or we go to a cat and we imagine that we're a cat. That's what I think. If we put a dog's head on or a cat's head on, then we think we're communicating better. I think it's all part of that. Also, well dressed as animals, many people are inspired to get involved in divination and clairvoyance, very much part of the Samoan tradition, because guidance from the spirits of animals and birds are regarded as powerful wisdom and medicine. I'm going to be talking more about this in the Crossing the Veil episode next Sunday as well. But the one thing with us, I think I have the picture here, if I got it right. One thing we do, a lot of us, if we have a fire outside, is this. We bake the spuds. We throw the spuds. We don't have the cattle where we can throw the spuds or even apples in the fire. We tend to put the foil on these days, but you don't have to, because I absolutely love the taste of them. Even if they get burned, we love them, don't we? Now, anyway, I'm going to go a bit more into a little bit about divination after our next guest. And it was going to be the fabulous Laura Montserrat. She's a poetry by the barrow, but she couldn't share her offerings with us today. We're going to have her next Sunday. But I got a little bit of a clip from her, the setting that she's going to be recording in. Very brief, but just sort of a teaser of what Laura is going to be speaking about. Right, so that's it. We'll have that with Laura in next week. Comments. I think there's been a few coming in. Heather said something. A mugwort, traditional smudging herb, acts very much like sage. There you go. Mugwort is something that is very abundant for us in Ireland, the UK, Europe. Thanks for mentioning the Green World gifts. Very good. And Alama, very powerful presence, story of presence, Kate. Lovely. Thank you for saying that. Of course, you relate to that a lot, among in the sort of lifestyle you've had. And Penny, thank you, Kate, humbly sharing your deep spiritual experience. Your bravery and joy has brought out of a very difficult time. And Claire, love that extraordinary story, Kate, very strong to survive that accident. Absolutely wonderful. And there she is, the Iowa people, as she says. And Charlene thanks Kate as well there. Fabulous. Absolutely brilliant. I'm going to move on. We've still got a couple more guests, so I hope you don't mind hanging on. I'd said this was a monster one, and I said I'd be talking about divination a little bit. I'll keep this short because I want to save a lot of this for next week. So I'm going to switch over here if I can. Right. Talk about divination at the sacred fire. Now, the participants had such a thing. Let's get my ducks in a row here. Now, participants. Oh, let's get rid of the. I need to be an octopus sometimes to get. There we go. Knock that one down. There we go. And I think I'm on the ball now. Participants around the community sacred fire. I think that'll be recognized there as well. They're often asked to remain positive, respectful, and open-minded. And this is really something that's definitely going on here. And I can say it was many thanks here to Andrea Rosewood, who provided this photo for us this morning, so I can show it here. So I believe that's what was going on there. Everyone was remaining positive, respectful, open-minded, and there's a bit of bardic activity and sharing going on there. Wonderful. And all of that's necessary to nurture and sustain the space of the fire and around, and because it's where everyone can be comfortable, enjoy the presence, and as I've already mentioned, be open. So healthy presence around the sacred fire, it does always encourage clear communication between ourselves, our ascendants, our ancestors, and we start to feel our ancestors are within us, depending what we believe in, within us because the memories arouse and surround us, or we believe in the presence of the spirit of our ascendants and ancestors, or both. The memories are all part of bringing that forward. Whatever you're believing, as we have this relaxation, being comfortable and open. Now, one practice that does seem to happen when we're all comfortable and connected around the fire is, as I mentioned, the practices of divination. And so to me, it's always like when you're around the fire, we really have fun with this, don't we? It's not all sincere. We have a kind of a virtual or spiritual board game that goes on around the fire. We don't have the boards, but it's like playing a board game as we share our memories and spirits that we can all join in with through various divination games that we have, serious divination as well, because of what we see in the fire. And from that, we get prophecies, and those prophecies are more like clarity of our presence. And that opens up the door to the veil to see where the stories of our individual, if I can get this going, it's like a veil toward, we can see the future of our individual stories, where they're taking us. Yeah. Now, from that fire divination, in a way, what I feel it's like is suddenly in that relaxed space, we can visualize our next chapter. So divination and prophecies are indeed a very important revelation, and they're a source of comfort to ourselves when we are feeling comfortable around the fire. And those visions and the comfort from those revelations and seeing where our next chapter is, it carries us well through the seemingly long, dark winter ahead. So divination to me is very important at this end of harvest fire. Now, some of these divination practices, as I say, like virtual board games, they're fun because we do laugh, we make jokes, and we get witty when people come up with the revelations in a kind way, of course. And when we do that, it breaks up any coldness that still remains to us in a community. We warm up together. It brings us all closer together, doesn't it? Anyway, I'm not gonna explain more about divination crafts. I want to get on. We're playing on. We've got two more wonderful guests, and the next one live. I'll get my earplugs on because he's patiently waiting for us after finding his way here. And if I can untie the knot of I'm not very good with the wireless things. I'm not very good with the wired ones. I can't exactly stick them in my ear like this. They've got to. There we go. We're in shame. And I'll bring Jerry on. There we go. Hang on. That's the wrong end. Wrong ear, wrong end. There we go. There we go. Hello, Jerry. How you doing there?
Hi, John.
Lovely to see you again. I think we're loud and clear with you, which is great. Let's see if I can get. There's my buttons. Okay, the buttons actually work. I love that. There we go. Just getting to practice what happens there. There we go. How are you doing? You've had a very busy time with the poetry walks for a start, I gather.
Yes, it's going very strong again. More and more people are beginning to come out, and I'll be having my last one on, I think, 13th of November. I'll be packing in.
Oh, you're going deep into the season.
Yes.
So, with anticipation, what have you got to share with us today?
I've got a couple of things, John. One's a sound sonnet written by a very good friend of mine, fellow poet. He's a Morris dancer. He's a singer, musician.
Oh, lovely.
One of those people you just love to hate because no matter what you do, it's good. So he's called Adam Garland, and it's called Sound Sonnet. Moonshine bathes the rain-washed sound evening. Orange-scented candles flicker brightly. New Year comes, 'tis time the crone was leaving. Trick-or-treaters ring the doorbell nightly. Upon the fire the logs are crackling, singing. Bobbing apples duck in water slowly. Praising rowan trees her voices ringing. Praise the goddess now, she sleeps so lowly. New Year dawns so bright upon the morrow. Crisp and clear the year in frosty glory. Now we pass the time in joy and sorrow. New Year comes, yet some have left this story. Raise a glass to those now gently sleeping, and look forward to the new with heart leaping. That's I do like that from Adam Garland. And he's got it all. He's got all this time of the year. He's got it all in there in the short song.
It is fantastic. Do you have another one?
Yeah, I've got another one, and it's this is called "'Twas the Evening of Samhain."
Oh, wonderful!
And, I hope you enjoyed this one.
Oh, definitely.
"'Twas the evening of Samhain, and all through the place were pagans preparing the ritual space. The candles were set in the corners with care, in hopes that the watchtowers soon would be there. We all had our robes on, as is habitual, and just settled down, and were starting our ritual. When out of the porch there arose such a chorus, that we went to the door, and waiting there for us were children in costumes of various kinds, with visions of chocolate bright in their minds. In all of our workings we'd almost forgot, but we had purchased candy, we'd purchased a lot, and so as they flocked from all over the street, they all got some chocolate or something else sweet. We didn't think twice of delaying our right. Kids just don't have this much fun every night. For hours they came with the time-honored shriek of giving a choice, a treat or a trick. As is proper, the parents were there for the games, watching the children and calling their names. Oh Vader, oh Layla, oh Dexter, oh Dee, oh Xena, oh Buffy, Casper and Tweety. To the block of apartments on the neighbourhood road, you'll get so much candy you'll have to be told. The volume of children eventually dropped, and as it grew darker, it finally stopped. But as we prepared to return to our right, one child more stepped out of the night. She couldn't have been more than 12 or 13. Her hair was deep red and her robe forest green, with a simple gold cord tying off at the waist. She'd a staff in her hand and a smile on her face. No makeup, nor mask, or accompanying kitsch. So we asked who she was. She replied, I'm a witch. And no, I don't fly through the sky on my broom. I only use that thing for cleaning my room. My magical powers aren't really that neat, but I won't threaten tricks. I'll just ask for a treat. We found it refreshing, so we gave incense cones, a candle, a crystal, a few other stones. and the rest of the candy, which might fill a van. She turned to her father, a man dressed as Pan, and laughed. She said, I know, Dad, it's past time for bed. I started to leave, but she turned her head and said, I'm sorry for further delaying your ride. Blessed Samhain to all. Have a magical night.
Oh,
There's a nice
wow.
one from them.
Ah, fantastic, wonderful, and thank you so much for getting a moment away, boys. So busy, and while you're watching, see Barb's Aloud. You'll see that on the Facebook, and if you're in the East Anglia area, there's lots of activities as well as the poetry. Poetry walks as well. God, the amount of everybody's been out and about with where you are. The stuff you're posting, it's like every day you've got an event. It's been amazing.
Well, I had two great ones yesterday. I did some scary tales for children at a local library in the afternoon, and I went
Lovely.
into another gathering last night. There was, I think, 160, 170 people. It was a day-long thing, but I wasn't able to be there early because I was at the library. But I did storytelling around a lovely bonfire. And on that bonfire were these iron hooks, and you had the pots and the pans dangling off them. You know, the water was getting boiled by this fire, by this wooden fire. But what we were doing there, we were writing messages on pieces of paper to our ancestors and putting them in the fire. So just as you were talking about earlier on about putting rosemary and other gifts in, we were writing messages to the ancestors and putting them in the fire in the hope.
All the stuff we've been talking about. Fabulous.
Yes, exactly.
Wonderful. When you were back in Lanesborough,
I'm
Jerry's from Lanesborough in
I'm hoping to be back there again next August. August is my month for Lanesborough. And I couldn't believe it. I was 22 days there this August, and I never saw one drop of rain. That's incredible.
No, there wasn't any rain this summer. We're getting it all now. We're flooded here. So there's a lot. And of course, where I'm living now, Lanesborough is not far away. And I was amazed. Such a beautiful wooded road from Lanesborough to Rooski. Absolutely fabulous routes. Beautiful. I was really stunned. If you're really into woodlands and native woodlands, whatever road you take between the two, they're incredibly narrow. Don't try it with a mobile home. You'll never go over the bridges, but absolutely gorgeous, those roads. It was a real joy to ride them. So, yeah, thanks very much, Jerry. Pleasure to have you, and I hope we'll get you back very soon. And we might even see you when you're in the Lanesborough area.
As I was saying, I love it when there's 5 Sundays in the month. I have an extra day if there's 5 Sundays.
Great.
We had 5 Sundays. That's why I was able to be here today. Because the other 4
brilliant.
So it's great.
Right, I know what I'm trying to get up here. Then we got some compliments. Penny Stevenson, Jerry. That was brilliant, real treat. And Kate there, love the night before someone poem. Brilliant. And Charlene there, and the wonderful Heather there from Eugene. Lovely Jerry, fantastic. And Claire, of course, who loves your work anyway. Magic, I can see.
Thank you, Claire. Hope to catch you.
There you go. Yeah, brilliant. Wonderful. And what's here? Cliff said he lost the show for a short while. He's off to work. Thank you, Jerry. Thanks very much. Wonderful. So yes, thank you very much. That was a treat as well. Thanks, Jerry. All the best to you. Happy Sawan and safe winter. Thanks very much. Thank you. There we go. And Jerry Donnellan. We still got one more guest. So thank you very much for hanging on through this kind of bumper edition. We haven't had so many guests for a long time. And right, I'm going from the sacred fire to the sharing of the embers. We've got to say a few words about that. And the final practice, of course, this is from the bonfire. You've done all this stuff around the bonfire. Beautiful time. And so there's the distribution of the embers amongst the people present. I'll be talking more about this next week. But the way that this is done is, of course, through these lovely... No, not that one. Let's try that one. That's more like it. The turnip ones. And this year, I think more people, especially over here, are going more into turnips. They're buying less pumpkins. It is harder work. But of course, in the North America, it's easier to get hold of pumpkins than it is to get turnips like that. But watch your hands with the turnips. Well, that's a lovely one there. Right. Now, before joining the sacred fire, everyone would have doused their home fires and cleared the ashes. And is that supposed to be on? Yeah. And they do that to be ready for relighting their fires for the winter. And fire embers, so you douse your home fires, gone to the lovely community end of the harvest fire, because that is closing the harvest, closing your harvest season by putting the fire out. So you're going to take fresh embers from the community sacred fire, because the reason, guess why you do that? Not because you need a fresh flames, but because people believe that the memories, spirits, and presence of our ascendants and our ancestors, they've come to us in the fire. They're part of the fire. Even if she is there, we take some of those embers back home. They remain in our hearths for the winter to warm us, help with the cooking and all the glowing. And it's believed that those spirits there to protect us and help to provide for us through the winter. So I hope this session today has inspired you to visualize and connect with sacred fires better, and certainly perhaps a bit of a pause of what used to go on when you do pick up, if you do eat meat, that is, when you pick it up at the supermarket. See if you can actually place yourself by a fire and have that gratitude. Just a suggestion. And so I hope today's been fun and clarity for you. And that your wisdom, your personal wisdom is erupted, and you'll be prepared so much better to open up to the fire next time you have a chance to participate in a sacred fire. But as I say, one more guest, and before we go, we've got a very classy final guest, Grace Wells. She has, let's see, I think I got Grace Wells' picture, lovely one there. She's released a beautiful poetry video. I love to feature her work here on Nature Folklore as much as possible. But I think this is the most outstanding video from Grace that I'm about to show you now. So this is Grace Wells with a new poetry. It's Someone Wisdom. And I'll come back to your comments after, but I'm dying to show you this beautiful film, video clip that's pausing. This is
Samhain. Wisdom. Samhain, the festival of endings on the cusp of the new year. Samhain, the last gleanings before the lean months come in. The last glimpse of autumn's bounty before the kayak reveals her face. And the fresh fires are lit in celebration of the year past. Fires red as the hawthorn berries' small torch of endurance. Fires lit against what lies ahead. Samhain, season of shadows. threshold to the governing dark. In the dark moon of surrender, in the fox deep, owl wide night. The wolf hour, chill as the first frost, the Kyliak's hand on each of us, pausing us to sit in reckoning with what the year has brought, its gifts and kindness. To be with what the year has also taken. A chance to love again those we have lost. To dance once more with their flickering light. To be thankful for the time they were ours. And so little in nature to support us, but winter with its different beauty. How can this end be a beginning, except that it is? The seed unsprouted, the ground gone cold. Samhain whittling us back to the bare branch. The barren field. Whittling us back to the quick, where we're able for wind and storm, able for the spate rivers. Until the Kyliak has paired us back so far as to reveal our own star, the way it can shine brightest in the dark. Samhain, the season that asks us to love the dark. But no haste, days it takes. Days that turn into months with the Kyliak. Listening to her rhythms. And so long before she reveals, so long before we're quiet enough to hear the steady heart of the earth.
Wow, Grace, I think you've outdone yourself on that one. That's absolutely super. Absolutely amazing video. Very uplifting. Brilliant show. Fantastic guest, John. Thanks again for including the song they're putting on the slideshow to it. The great poems sung by Grace to finish. Yeah, amazing. Charlene enjoyed that too. Little Wing, thanks for the hospitality, says wonderful. And Jane saying hello to Claire there. Wonderful. Thank you for your comment there, Jane. Inspiring show, which you added to the inspiration. So that's fabulous as well too. Brilliant. And there's one comment here. The one thing from that, easy to carve using turn it with a melon baller. There you go. That's definitely a way to go. And that's the one thing with the turnip is great. I'll try the melon baller. Let's have a go. I tend to sort of scoop out. I've got a sort of round bladed thing that's like a butter curler, which is very similar to the melon baller. So that's brilliant. That's brilliant. Well, I'm still sort of mesmerized by Grace's film there. Stunning imagery and poetry from Grace. Yeah, I'm still knocked out by myself. But as I was saying earlier, and Claire is coming on there. Beautiful Grace, love the music, words, and imagery. Spectacular put together. And Claire saying hello back to Jane there, which is great. Oh, the comments. Kate's here. This day is more special to me from this blessed time. And thank you, Kate, for adding what you did, which was it's all these contributions from yourselves that really made that. It's amazing. As I say, it's all kept afloat thanks to the subscribers. There we go with the Patreon link there. I'll just flash up the by tradition. Yeah, there's the buy me a coffee if you prefer to use a card there. And coming up, coming up as well, our last Sunday episode for about 15 months, next Sunday, 6th of November. It's going to be a continuation of things I touched on here, plus a whole bunch more guests. It's the day before the cross quarter day of the 7th. So what is the veil? Going into what is the veil is the theme. And during the 12th, the 15 month of the 15 months after, I'm going to be compiling and writing and publishing the series of 4 Nature Folklore books through 2023. So if you missed the start, I explain all this or the beginning and what the titles are when they're coming out. But meanwhile, don't forget that at 7 p.m. on Wednesdays, Irish time, I'm still continuing the Holy Welsh Revival editions, trying to keep those a lot shorter, 30 minutes if I can. I was going to have Catherine McGlynn with presenting some lost wells in Donegal. She does fabulous work in finding wells, but unfortunately, she's come down with an illness, can't do that. So I'm actually going to turn things around. I'm going to be covering curses at Holy Wells on Wednesday, and we'll have Catherine the following Wednesday for that. And plus, if you, I will present a way when Catherine's here, and I might start it as well. I'm going to put up some graphics to show how you can find lost and hidden wells that are near you. So there's a lot of comments, brave comments coming from you that I haven't. Abundant comments. Let's see what you're saying now. Great show. Swan blessings to everyone. I'll take these things out because we haven't got more guests. Lamar, beautiful Grace. He says there, Heather. A link to Grace's video to watch again and share. Grace, well, she has a YouTube. I'm going to actually be posting it on my profile straight after this as well. And from there, if you go to the YouTube, from the link, you'll see where her channel is and you can take it from there. A couple of days ago, I played, which I think is the second best one that she did as commission for the Apple Fest in Clonmel. And that's for the children. And that is it's a long one. It's a beautiful one as well. And Linda's here. Lovely to have Linda. Beautiful, so creative. Thank you for being here. Oh, Claire's referring back to Jane's costume there. It's, it was great. So thank you very much. Thank you for all you're saying. Thank you for being, it is a super long one. We haven't had one with this many guests for a long time and gone on for a long time. So let's thank a great applause there for Cliff Carr, Chandler Nichols, Jane Gilgan, Kate, Cloud Sparks, Jerry Donlan was on, and then finished off with a Grace Wells video. And if you're watching this broadcast as its archive, as its replay, do make comments, ask questions. I do check up from time to time and help you out there and answer the comments. If you're on YouTube, I say click subscribe, which is still a good idea, because even though I'm going to be doing the books over the next year, I will be doing teaser video clips to show how I'm getting on with that. So the subscribe button, no, it won't bring you to Sunday sessions. It brings you to these little clips and in the series. So that just leaves me to wish you a wonderful week, a lovely, safe week, enjoying your celebration fires, whichever you do. A week full of wonder, inspirations, enchantments. So until our final show of this season next Sunday, when I take a break to get on with the writing, also tuned into the Holy Welsh Revival every Wednesday, 7 p.m. I'm going to be continuing that through winter onwards. So until we meet again here, whichever way it is, play well. Thank you very much. And I think that's all I got to offer. Thank you for all your compliments. I think it's time to say bye-bye to you. So this is the end. Have a lovely day and weekend. Bye. And here we go.